good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist, conversation with yours truly, Dion Parson. I'm really excited tonight about our guest. This gentleman, we actually was just hanging out a couple weeks together in China, performing with the Elio Villafranca trio at Jazz in Shanghai with special guest vocalist Brianna Thomas. And he has agreed to join me on the show tonight. Please give a warm welcome to bassist, composer, arranger, and educator. Join me in welcoming Mr. Edward Perez to the show.
Hello, Dion. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. It's like I just saw you like a couple weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
Had a good time in China. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful club, great music, great food, great hang,
Lots of surprises.
Lots of surprises. Yep. Yeah. Really, really nice, man. But it's always a pleasure, when I know I'm going to be in your company because we have so much fun and it's always a creative environment and there's lots to talk about, lots to do. And so when you agreed to do the show, I said, yes, this is great because I think this is a unique opportunity for our audience to check you out as an artist because your background story is unique. Most cats grew up studying music and doing all of this. You did all of that, but you did a whole nother thing in college, which we'll get to. But let our audience know, where you're from and how long you've been doing this.
Yeah, sure. Well, this all started kind of in an unlikely way. I mean, I was born in a little town right on the Mexican border in Texas, and it's not really a place where actually it's really hard to find jazz music there at all, period. And I'm the youngest of four siblings, and somehow my older brother got into playing tenor. The family had lived in other places before I was born, and yeah, when he left for Interlaken to study music in high school, he left behind a CD. We had just got our first CD player, and I heard the Branford Marsalis Royal Garden Blues album, where track one starts with a walking bass line, and I heard that and I was sold. and yeah, it wasn't easy.
That's it.
Exactly. I said, that's what I want to do. I said, I heard that walking bass line, and I said, if I could do that, I would just do that all day long. And yeah, it wasn't easy to start learning. That was before internet, that was before YouTube, that was before all these resources that people have now to learn music from wherever they are. So I had to get my hands on some recordings, do some transcriptions, talk to my brother on what back then were long distance phone calls where you had to hurry up and ask him questions about music theory and he'd tell me what to practice. And that's kind of how I got started in the first place. And then later I was able to go to a high school for music, Interlaken, and that's where my more formal studies started.
Great. And then when you got to Interlaken, I know you kind of followed your brother there because he's kind of set the trend for you, but you didn't study jazz at Interlaken. You studied classical bass.
Well, yes. I'm trying to remember. Actually, at that time, the way the majors worked in that school, if you were a music major, then you were an orchestra.
You were an orchestra, yeah.
If you played an orchestral instrument. So that's both of them, both the jazz track and the classical track go in parallel. And that was a great experience too. The orchestra was really good. The bass teacher was, mostly a classical player, and it was great for me to come up through high school studying with a classical bassist. And I also got to take lessons from Bob Ferrazza, a great jazz guitarist who teaches at Oberlin and is based there and comes and visits.
Right. I know Interlaken has a really great artist in residence program where they bring guys in, they bring folks in from everywhere.
Yes.
So you had there's a like a set faculty there, but they're constantly bringing in artists to perform, artists to teach, artists to do workshops and stuff. So it's a really great environment. And so it's, you got a chance to go to high school there. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really was. And actually, some of the players that I met there, when we were both in high school together, are on the scene now doing amazing things. And it was great to have, made those contacts from so early on.
Right. So the interesting thing is, you go to Interlochen, which is a prestigious, arts and creative school, but then you go to Harvard and you study math.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, you know, I was always I always had both of those as a kid. I had both of those interests, uh, both both math and science and music. And as you're finishing high school, you're still a kid. So there was really no way I was going to know for sure how things were going to play out and what I wanted to do if I
Mhm.
liked both of those things. And again, going back to my brother, who's a good, kind of 9 years older than me and kind of had seen more of the world than me, he just sat me down and said, "Look, if you want to keep your options open," he said, "if you can really play your instrument, people will hire you to play music,
Mhm.
whether or not you have a degree. But if you want to be an engineer, no one's going to hire you unless you have a degree." so I figured that was a way to keep my options open, and I only applied to colleges, to academic schools,
Mhm.
but I only applied to schools that were in major cities that had a music scene,
Okay,
and I ended up at Harvard.
great. And then while at Harvard, you actually jumped on the scene right away. You were playing right away.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, playing around town.
Mhm.
um kind of burning the candle at both ends, trying to get all my homework done and playing gigs around the city.
Mhm.
Brings back a memory of I've been up late practicing for something that had me really really nervous, and I actually fell asleep in one of my lecture classes in Harvard. And what woke me up was the sound of an electronic metronome. And I thought, oh, how odd that someone in this class has a metronome. And then I realized that the sound was coming from my backpack. And there were about 200 people in that lecture hall staring at me. And I had to dive into that backpack and find the metronome and turn it off. It was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, my college years were, kind of trying to get everything done at the same time.
Yeah. Well, from a academic standpoint, there is a major correlation between math sciences and music. From a mathematical standpoint, intervals and all of that. So I'm sure you know this, and a lot of our listeners know this. So there's a whole you know how should I say concept out there that music is a science as well. So you're kind of on the right path.
There's also a concept that math is an art. So yeah,
There you
it
go.
goes both ways.
It goes both ways. That's true. That's
Yeah,
true. So upon moving,
yeah.
well, you're part of the scene up at Harvard, and you're playing in Boston, you're playing in that whole area, and then you come to New York, and you're on the scene in New York also. But the thing that I really admire about you, like you have a connection to a whole another level of stuff between the classical and the whole Hispanic background and the jazz scene. So you're in a couple other things, not just like a jazz musician.
Well, yeah, and in fact, I have to take a step back and kind of correct the story that you told. I actually didn't go from Boston to New York. Um,
Right. That's right.
when
That's
I
right.
had been Yeah, when I had been in Boston for a little while, I ended up doing a tour in Lima, Peru. Had a great
Mhm.
time there. I already kind of had it in mind that decided to make another trip over there, play some more gigs, found some students over there, found some friends over there. And I already had it in mind that I would move to New York, but I knew that once I put some effort into getting established in New York, I wouldn't want to throw that away. I wouldn't want to leave.
Right.
And I had this kind of itch to see what life in Lima might be like. So I just kind of decided to do that after Boston and before New York. I spent 2 years there,
Right.
and
You
I
did
think
mention that, I forgot that, yeah.
yeah, later on when we get into listening to some music, we can come back to that because
Mhm.
that might come up in some of the stuff we listen to.
Right. And the fact that you speak fluent Spanish, is that from family or that's from growing up next to Mexico or both?
Both, both.
Yeah.
It's really both. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's great because when I first met you on the scene, I think I met you first with Elio.
That's
That's
correct. Yeah.
the first time. Yeah. So I was like, okay, this guy. And then afterwards, then I realized your background. Because I had already moved out of New York by the time. When did you move to New York
In '05 is when I
Oh
got to
five.
town.
Okay, yeah, I moved out. officially 2012. So yeah, okay. Yeah, but I think we met a little bit after that.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
it was later. I've been in town for a while before we met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually living in St. Thomas when we met. I was coming back and forth to New York. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Great. So tell me about your time, because you work with a lot of different groups and bands and some amazing projects. From a classical standpoint, I know you've done some different projects, but you've worked with Yo-Yo Ma. Tell me about that, that time with doing that gig.
Sure, sure. Well, that kind of came about more from a world music angle than
Mhm.
anything else. There's a really great collective of musicians that Yo-Yo Ma founded about 30 or so years ago called Silkroad,
Mhm.
or Silkroad Ensemble. And and I, you know, this kind of started with coming to New York straight from Peru, where I'd been playing Afro-Peruvian music and Latin jazz, and I had been learning about some Cuban music. And then I found that New York was a place where I could just branch out further and further and further,
Mhm.
and explore, kind of anything I wanted or anything that came my way. Because part of it was just luck, but there was gaita or bagpipe player from Galicia who I
Mhm.
started working with, named Cristina Pato. And Cristina was a member of that group, the Silkroad Ensemble, for many years. And she heard some of the music that I wrote at one point and asked if I would like to write some music for her. And we did an album together in which I wrote most of the music on the album. And later the opportunity came up to arrange that music for the Silk Road Ensemble, and that's how they met me. And once they started playing some music of mine, they found out about me as a bass player, and I got to do some playing with the group. I got to play with Yo-Yo in a few situations. Most memorably, we got to play in with a small chamber group in David Geffen Hall, um, as part of a New York Phil concert. New York Phil played the first half and we played the second, or the other way around. I can't remember which was first and which was second. I think we played the first half. New York Phil played the second half of the concert, and we actually got to play some of the music that I had written to feature Cristina, and which also involved Yo-Yo. That was a really special experience for me.
That's great. That's great. And so Yo-Yo and the Silk Road Ensemble is a major thing that you wrote for. You also write a lot of other commission pieces for different ensembles.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Again, this has been another avenue for me to explore in a lot of ways. I I lead a big band of my own, and to co-lead actually with a very, very dear friend, Michael Thomas, who's an amazing alto player. And he plays really all the winds, but his primary instrument is alto saxophone. And and that has gotten me into writing for some other big bands, most recently the Airmen of Note, the Air Force big band.
Mhm.
And then my contacts with Silk Road, through that I've gotten to write for just a whole bunch of different kinds of settings. I got to write one memorable project for me was writing a suite for an incredible classical violinist, Johnny Gandelsman, who played in Silk Road, played in um, at one point played in a chamber orchestra called the Knights, and he's in Brooklyn Rider, which is a string quartet
Brooklyn
that's
Records.
doing very well these days.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and just writing for him was a real treat. I got to write a five movement suite for solo violin, and then I've written an oud player that I know asked if I would arrange one of his things for him in string orchestra. That was really
Mhm.
cool. I've written for string quartets, just a whole bunch of different things, and yeah, I don't know. I guess I like to get myself in trouble that way when people come along and they say, "Hey, you think you'd like to try doing this? I almost always say yes,
Yes.
because I want to see it from the other side, and then I
Yeah,
stress about it after I say
it's
yes.
kind of like a challenge. I wonder if I can really do this, and so that's great.
Exactly.
You also participated in the Passion for Bach and Coltrane project with Imani Wins, which was a Grammy winning project.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and that was a really incredible experience. That album, that project involves Imani Winds, the wind quintet, the Harlem Quartet, a string quartet,
Hmm.
a jazz trio that consists of myself, Alex Brown on piano, and Neil Smith on drums, and the poet A.B. Spellman, who's a very integral part of that
Right.
project. And the project is about sort of envisioning if Bach and Coltrane had ever met, what kind of music would they make together, and what would happen if they were to make a Passion of Christ together. And working with that group, or I should say those groups, because it's a collaboration of several groups, has been a real treat. Because as soon as I got there, I have to say a lot of them didn't really know me, but when I first got there, but as soon as I got there, they put a lot of trust in me musically,
Hmm.
and really just let me take the music, trusted me 100% to take the music wherever I felt,
Right.
that it should go from the bass chair. And I have to add to that they're all just really warm, generous people, and
Hmm.
that anytime I get to go on the road with them, it's also a pleasure. Just from that angle too. It's a project that I hold really dear to my heart.
Yes, and then like you mentioned, it's a great group, man. I've heard them many times, and I've had a couple of the members on the show as well too. So that's
Yeah.
really exciting, really exciting. And then and lastly, I wanted to ask you about my good friend Ignacio Berroa, because you spent some time with him as
Oh
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done some tours together. He's been, I would say he's been a big influence on me.
Hmm.
Um, he has a really, what's the right way to say it? He has a really open way of playing in clave. A lot of people think of playing in clave as maybe something that's more tight and more restricted and even more structured. But I feel like in his case, the structure only exists as a doorway into a wider set of possibilities.
Hmm.
And playing with him can be a wild ride in that way. And another thing that's cool about him is this really, really deep love that he has for straight ahead jazz.
Right.
And I feel that in the way that he plays, he's 100% willing to blur the lines between Afro-Cuban music and American jazz. And he
Hmm.
he has nothing to prove in terms of, having to stand on one side or the other of the fence and show how authentic the sound is on one side or the other. He's just free to dip one toe in the swimming pool quickly, and then he's ready to go anywhere in any moment. And that's another thing in the chances that I've gotten to play with him that really, really keeps me on my toes.
Hmm. Yeah, when I first heard him play, I said, "Man, this guy plays Latin music like a jazz musician." Then I heard him swing, and I was like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it is."
yeah,
He
yeah,
understands,
yeah.
like it's his musical concept, like you said, is he blurs those lines, but it's totally authentic. It's beautiful.
Yes. Well, I mean, the years that he spent playing with Dizzy Gillespie, they show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Great stuff, great stuff. And so now we've discussed all of these great projects you've been part of. I want you to tell me now, in your just let's talk about your big band, and then we're gonna lead into some of the music so we can start checking this out. The first song is your jazz trio, the guitar trio, but I want us to talk a little bit about the big band because we have some of that music, and I want our audience to understand the full um, caliber of what you're presenting.
Okay. Um, Well, the big band started, gosh, uh, a number of years ago. A number of years ago, I was sharing an apartment with a friend. This friend of mine who I mentioned before, Michael Thomas, incredible alto player, composer, and we at that time we liked to drink really strong espresso. And one morning we got to talking about how we were both starting to write music for a big band, and wouldn't it be great to get a reading session together? And then we had an espresso and we said, hey, I think we could do this, but if we're going to get a reading session together, we should get a gig. And then we had another really strong espresso and we said, if we're going to get a gig, we should get a steady gig. and before we knew it, we had this plan together to get a steady gig at Terraza 7 in Queens, which is a tiny club where a big band barely fits. And that's how I knew that the owner would be into it, because he is also crazy. and I knew that just because having a big band there seems like the most unlikely thing, that would be one of the things that made him want to do it. And sure enough, he gave us a monthly residence there. The group got tight. We were fortunate. We called some of our favorite players, and so many incredible musicians were willing to play. And after a number of years together, we went into the studio. We called Systems 2 and asked to book one day in the studio, and they said, sure. Can we ask what format is this for? We said, it's a big band. And they said, oh, excuse me, I don't know if you know that you cannot make a big band album in one day. And we said, well, we'd like to book one day in the studio. But the band had been playing. The band had been playing month after month after month after month. The band was tight. And we went in there, with a bunch of great players. Our two tenor players were Troy Roberts and John Ellis, imagine. And Perdomo on piano, Samuel Torres on percussion. We, just had a lot of great players in that band. John Fedchock. I mean, just too many. And we went in there, and we had a friend in the control room, and after about 2 tunes of recording, our friend told us that the engineers just kind of looked at each other and said, these guys really are going to make a big band album in one day. And so, the group is called the Terraza Big Band, being that we started with that monthly residence in Terraza 7. And the album, one of the tunes that we recorded was my friend Michael's arrangement of Troy Roberts' tune called One Day Wonder. And given that we got that album in the bag in one day, we decided to call the album One Day Wonder. And much to our surprise, that album was nominated for a Grammy when it came out.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. So that's like 7 Grammy nominations, right? Something like that.
If you include all the sideman stuff, and if you include Latin Grammys and American Grammys, yeah, it's 7.
Yeah, great. Congratulations. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So Terraza Big Band is the big band that you and Michael co-lead, but you also share music with some of the other projects, and one of them is a guitar trio that you share. That's the first song up. Entitled Perennial. We're gonna listen to that in a minute, but kind of lead us into this guitar trio.
Sure. Well, at the same time, I've always loved smaller formats. I love the freedom, the spontaneity, and of course, I always have this itch to be featured a little more as a bass player. and that's, trio is just a great format for that. And actually, Alex Wintz and Jimmy McBride, the guitarist and drummer, are actually two musicians who you can hear on the big band album as well. And they're both phenomenal players and people I feel really comfortable playing with, and inspiring to play with. And there's, I feel like after playing so many through composed, arranged big band tunes, just having these short tunes like a little poem that fit on one page that a band can just connect on and open up on is a necessary part of my life, to keep some balance in my life and keep the spontaneity flowing. So Perennial is one of these short melodic tunes that I wrote that, you know, is a vehicle for that sort of conversation and improvisation.
Great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Let's check out Perennial with the guitar jazz trio. Do you have a name for the group?
Edward Perez Trio would be the name. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Edward Perez Trio featuring Perennial. Great. Thank you, man. That's a beautiful piece. That's a beautiful
Thank you,
piece.
thank you.
Can you just share with our listeners the members of your trio?
Sure. Yeah, that's on guitar, that's Alex Wintz, and on drums, Jimmy McBride.
Great, great. You have a comment. Your sense of rhythm is impeccable. Yeah. So when was this? When did you guys record this?
Oh, this was just kind of coming out of the pandemic. I did some I did some playing with this trio, and actually did some playing with a quartet, which is this trio plus Godwin Louis. And
yeah.
And to be honest, the original idea was to go in the studio with the quartet, and Godwin had a tour to somewhere in Africa where he was supposed to leave the next day. And as you and I both know, as sometimes happens on tours, there was a last minute surprise where they said, "Okay, we got the flight." No, it's not the day we told you. It's one day before. So he so not his fault at all, but he wasn't able to make it. And you know, that was okay, because I've had trio repertoire sitting around for years that I, you know, hadn't taken the time to record, and I'm glad that I got that opportunity to do that. And I don't know, for me that tune is sort of about continuity and permanence, and I really like the way, you know, trio is so intimate, and I like the way those guys played it and really kept the mood all the way through.
Great, great. And like, you know, our audience says, you know, beautiful melodic lines. So really nice. Enjoy that. Enjoy that.
Wonderful.
You have classical bass technique, but play with such deep, soulful jazz grooves. Okay. I played electric and acoustic bass, and you have a beautiful dark tone that really lets the acoustic resonance of the bass shine through. All right. Okay, you got folks checking you out.
I'm so glad people are feeling it. Yeah. It really makes me happy to hear that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, let's continue, because I think this next song is with the big band. This is Pasar el Tiempo. Let's check this out.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the Terraza Big Band.
Yes.
Pasar el tiempo.
Yeah, the full title of that is Pasar el tiempo aunque fugaz contigo, which translates to spending time though fleeting with you.
Okay. Okay. Well, what can I say? It's a great song, man. I enjoyed it. I'm sitting up there like, yeah, it's very catchy. Such incredible finger dexterity to get those walking bass lines so clean. Bravo. Okay. That's some serious bass work. Who's the horn player?
Oh, yeah. Let's mention the soloists.
Yeah.
That track first had a trombone solo played by Matt McDonald, and then later had a trumpet solo played by Josh Deutsch.
Okay. Great. And these are all New York City musicians. Yep. Good. So I think the next song also is
Yes, they are.
The same big band, yeah. Okay. So this is Flight of the Angels. Can you tell us about that one? The Flight of the Angels. Can you hear?
Well, Flights of Angels, which is a partial, like a little snippet of a quote from Shakespeare, the "Good night, sweet prince, and may flights of angels sing thee to thy rest." There was there's some moments, in specific moments in life, when just a number of things come together, and there were some sounds that were kicking around in my head, some that wanted to turn into a tune, but weren't quite there. There was someone in my extended family who I had lost, who was on my mind. And there was one night that back when I had a car, that I had to find a parking spot in one part of Brooklyn that I hadn't been back to in a while, and got there at night and found the entire place blanketed in fog, in sort of an eerie fog that just made this familiar place feel otherworldly. It kind of turned the familiar place into something entirely new. And that's just sort of the moment that all of this came together. The feelings of missing a family member who I lost, and also these melodies and bass lines that were just sort of in the background in my head. And that was kind of the moment that this tune started to come together. And then as soon as I could get home after that, I started writing it down.
Okay. All right. Well, let's check it out. Flights of Angels. That was Flight of Angels, Terraza Big Band. Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Do you use the pads on your fingers or just the tips?
In the lower register, I use, for the most part, only the tips, and in thumb position, I use everything, the pads, the sides, the tips. But I do try to get the pads in there in thumb position. I feel like that has a warm sound.
Okay. Love the complementary expressions of your bass and the guitar. Okay. Who is the guitar?
It's the same guitarist who we heard in the trio, Alex Wintz. And yes, I really love the way he got into that composition. I feel like when he plays his solo on that, it's not only a great guitar solo, but he finds a way to make it part of the tune too.
Kind of like it's been written out and etched into the. It's great when the solo is and there's backgrounds and it complements each other. It's not clashing. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Great. We have another comment here. Love the horn crescendo. Okay. Great. Well, man, time is not our friend right now. We only have a couple minutes, but we have one more song, and I'm going to pronounce this. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, con festejación.
So not quite. Festejation. Okay, so I mentioned those 2 years in Peru.
Okay.
One of the really fun danceable styles of music there is called festejo, and I still play that style. I put together this band in New York that plays that style. Again, the style is called festejo, and it's party music, and that's another way that I like to keep balance in my life. I like to keep a little bit of party music, and people in Peru kind of have this joke where when they want to pretend like they're speaking English, they use a word in Spanish and they put Asian at the end of it because they've noticed that so many words in English end with that sound, Asian. So it's in the same way English speakers have our little tricks, our little game of speaking pig Latin. There's sort of a fake English thing that you can do in Peru. So that's where the band name comes from. We take festejo, but we play it in the US. So the band is called Festejation. And and this tune that we're gonna mostly the band does songs that are common songs there that everyone there knows, and then I arrange them and do new versions of them. but this one is actually just an original composition. It's an instrumental that I've kind of written as sort of like a set opener to heat things up.
Okay. Is it a 6?
Yes, or 12.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
we talked about this in China. We was talking about some of this
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
nuances. Okay, yeah. All right. I thought so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's check this out. Con Festejation, Edward Perez and his tribute to Peru, music of Peru. All right.
Que la gente empiece a bailar. Traigo en mis canciones las alegrías para gozar. Que suenen ya los cajones, que las guitarras están rascando. Si la gente está bailando y todos gozando, vamos a tocar. Si la gente está bailando y todos gozando, vamos a tocar. La fiesta está prendida y yo quiero cantar. La fiesta está prendida y yo quiero cantar. A toda la gente mía, yo la quiero ver bailar. A toda la gente mía, yo la quiero ver bailar. Esto apenas va a comenzar y la rumba que yo traigo es para ponerse a bailar. Que suenen ya los tambores con la guitarra, el bajo y más, porque la gente bailando y todos gozando vamos a tocar. Porque la gente bailando todos gozando, vamos a tocar. La fiesta está prendida y yo quiero cantar. La fiesta está prendida y yo quiero cantar. A toda la gente mía, yo la quiero ver bailar. A toda la gente mía, yo la quiero ver bailar. Con festejation, con festejation, con festejation. Bueno, qué rico suena, pa' que lo baile, pa' que lo cante.
Definitely have all of the elements of Latin America and West African 6/8. You know,
Yes,
you know, all
that's
those
where it comes from.
Yeah,
Yep.
beautiful.
Yep.
Festejation.
Festejation, yeah.
Festejation. Wow. Beautiful. I love it, man. I love it. Hey, Man, we're out of time. This is
Okay.
so great, man. Just checking out all the the great music that you've been writing and putting out there and sharing all of that with us, the story and the music. Thank you, man. I know you're super busy. You just got off a plane today, just coming to do this. So
I did. I
yes,
did, but this is the best thing to come home to. It's been a real pleasure sharing this time with you, and I want to thank everyone who took the time to listen. The wonderful comments. It's great to feel that warmth too.
great, great. Well, man, before you leave, let our audience know how they can follow you. Any websites, any social media platforms, please share.
Yes. My website is edwardperez.com, EDWARDPEREZ. Some people say Perez. I say Perez. edwardperez.com, and my Instagram is Edward Perez Bass. Also, just want to announce that the big band will be starting up our monthly residence again. We're just about to start it up again. We'll be playing on the first Monday of almost every month. I mean, there are some months that we're out of town and we'll miss, but we'll be there February 2nd, first Monday of February. And, most months, not March, but most months will be there on the first Monday. That's at Terraza 7 in Queens. That's, and the big band is on Instagram is Terraza Big Band. Terraza is spelled TERRAZA.
Great, great. Thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it, man, Edward. And I'll see you soon, maybe in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That'd be great. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Great,
you,
man. All the best. Thanks again, man. Yes, that's Edward Perez sharing his story with us tonight and his music. Great stuff, man. At Sounds of the Diaspora, we have music from everywhere. He shared a lot of stuff from Peru and his Latin influence and the big band. So we really appreciate him coming out tonight and being part of the show. Join us next week. Come back and join us next week because we have another great, amazing pianist by the name of Donald Vega that's going to be joining us, and he has a lot to share with you guys also. So, we're just bringing you some great musicians and their music here at Sounds of the Diaspora. We look forward for you to come back and join us next week, and look forward to another great show, okay? Thank you again, and we wish you a good night. All the best. Take care.